So C started in 1990. So if you do the math, this is our 35th year, which is wow, right? Alive and well, and it's been a very productive year. So a lot of what today's meeting is about is talking about accomplishments and then looking forward to 2026 and recognizing all the great work and hearing from a variety of different folks, volunteers and board members. What else? But before we start, let me quickly introduce the board. We've got Martha Lane as our president, Nancy Mesner as vice president, Mickey Franks is our secretary, Lori Friedman, treasurer, Betsy Neely is treasurer. Sorry. Okay, Lori. Election, 1, 2, 3, go. All right, what was in my coffee? That I wasn't gonna mess this up. Robin Vickery does social media. Let's see, Karen Paulson isn't here, and her sister Susan Holleran that does membership isn't here because they just got back from Thailand, I think. And then we've got Dave Bone, who's our almost historian. Can we call you our historian?
I'll give you a token, man.
Token boy. Love you for that and many other reasons. And me. Did I forget anyone this year? No. Okay. And then we also want to recognize volunteers who aren't on the board, but really do a significant amount of work. Carol Maud, who does, like, I think the list of things that you don't do is longer than the things that you do. So we'll hear from Carol Maud on a variety of her undertakings. Bev Min is not here, and she helps us with website and putting together like the video on how to use the scope, which is really helpful before you go out on the bluff. If you kind of forget, wait, how does that go together? There's a video that you can look at right before. And also Jody Stevens, a new volunteer who's helping us with technology. So we're so grateful to have her on board. Yeah. She's put in a lot of time on our new website that we'll preview a little bit today. So if you didn't sign in, please do so and include your contact information. I'm pretty sure everybody's a member, but if you're not, please consider becoming a member. And just as a review, that does support this all volunteer organization, and it also helps in that you're covered by our insurance policy if you're a member. In terms of how you can help out more if you are interested, joining the board, if you're interested, we have an application and also a description at the front here. So please consider that. We do have an opening. Berta moved on, and we really appreciate the work that you did for us. Our greatest needs for folks that if you don't want to be on the board, but you just want to help out in other ways, are in technology. So all of this kind of stuff that's going on that Mickey's doing and loving, right? Yeah. So for the sake of her heart health, and we could use help with that, especially the winter presentations that we put together, getting the Zoom up and showing the PowerPoint and all that would be great if anyone has those skills. Bookkeeping, we lost our bookkeeper. Anyone with child education background, because the tide pool walks that we did this year, we're wanting to put that into a child education format. So if anyone has skills around that, that would be helpful. And also fundraising. So if you're interested in helping out in any other way, you could take the board application and just cross out board and say volunteer, and here's your skill. Take a photo of that and then email it. And the email is on your agenda. Did everybody get a little half-page agenda here? So we do appreciate any help that we can get. So it's a small organization. We do a whole lot, as you can see from the list of our activities. Hopefully everyone got a copy of that. And so please consider helping out in any way you can. So yeah, let's move on, because we do have a lot today to cover, to our accomplishments. And so I'd like you to look at that colorful sheet. If anyone didn't get it, we can pass them around. Did everyone got it? Our treasurer's doing such a great job. I'll get it. I'll just scare them. What's that? So our very Productive and Industrious Secretary Mickey Franks put this together. Isn't this cool? This is 2026, so you can fill in your calendars now. Isn't that exciting?
But show it to the camera.
Yes.
Oh, it's backwards.
It's backwards? Okay, well, anyway. So this is, I just thought this could be a nice way that we could kind of take you on a tour of what was accomplished in 2025, but then also see what's happening in 2026. There's a few things that are different, but mostly it's the same. So in the winter, we have the summer, or the, well, that would be interesting. We have this, we're gonna wear Hawaiian shirts, and yeah, so same format, but this year there's nothing in April in terms of a seminar because we've got all those trainings. And so all of those trainings, most of which are on the sand, except one, are going to happen in April. So that's why there wasn't a speaker for April. And so just if you want to, please feel free to go through the trainings again. I think that's a really great idea. I always find I learn something new from different folks in terms of like how to maybe articulate something in a more effective way. So please feel free to attend as many as you are interested in. If you missed any of the winter seminars, they're on YouTube. Thanks again to Vicki. So they're under past webinars, under notices on the old website, but we have a new website that's going to be available very soon, and it'll still say past webinars. So all of that is still available to see. So yeah, then we have the list of all of our interpretive events and when they're starting, and the new one this year, which is really exciting, was the tide pool walks in collaboration with the South Slough. Yeah, so I'll just kind of go through the things that were new this year. The tide pool walks, and Sandy Woodside is going to come up and talk about that in a little bit more detail, but that was a success and something really cool and new for us. Pup Watch grew exponentially this year thanks to Carol Maud's work and us opening it up to the public, inviting more people to consider joining C in a different way. So Carol will talk about that a little bit more. The Marine Garden tribal sign was complete and posted, or
Mounted.
Thank you. Mounted on the 11th Street stairs about halfway down. So that looks good. If you haven't checked it out, go check that out. We have a good collaboration with Sunset Bay. So they had a elephant seal. Maybe many of you were involved with that. That was not really stranded, but molting. And so it was sort of a last minute come out and do kind of like a pup watch for that little guy. And so that was great, good outcome for that critter. We partnered with the Bird Alliance of Oregon, inviting Catherine Lusher to come down and talk about puffins. That was a really good talk. That was during our puffin welcome back party. And she's coming back again in early May to provide another presentation. That was a really great one. And then finally, we have a new website that will be live very soon. Thanks to Jody Stevens, lots of talent and time she dedicated, as well as Mickey and Lori and Bev Min, and I helped out with that as well. So
do you want to show that?
Sure, let's take a picture of, or take a little walk through of what that looks like. So lots going on, right? Yay. Let's look at the new website. Do you want me to?
Yeah, just go ahead and.
So this is the first page.
And that will actually be a video someday.
Yeah, the waves are moving on this first page.
So you know how to.
Yep.
Just go through.
And then the goal of this was to make things easier to find. Okay, so we have a beautiful Discover page where people, oh, there is a delay on that, huh? There it is. Really pulls you in with these amazing photographs and describing all the different programs and when they'll be. We're also going to have an events calendar, so it'll be clear both for volunteers and people who are visiting when they can find someone on the bluff with spotting scopes. We have information about
our history. Ah,
Go to about us.
I'm trying.
Don't look at the TV. Look at the computer.
Yeah,
There
it's
you go.
still a little delay.
Yeah.
So a little bit of history here. Who we affiliate with, who's on the board, Marine Garden information. We'll send an email when this is live. These are all the panels that you can get more information about each of these species. Visitor info,
Skip that
getting involved, how to donate, become a member.
one. Go down to volunteer. Now that's under construction.
Yeah, some of these are still in the works, but we will have under events where you can see what's happening when, and then under volunteer resources, what else?
And
Lori,
if you click on the logo, sorry, you can get back to the homepage. Oh,
this logo right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't want to like do a put home on the menu, and then you can scroll down and there's a little snapshot of each of the things on the menu. Well, just the important ones, I guess. So yeah.
And you'll be able to sign up for volunteer shifts under volunteer resources.
And also, once the sign up is up and rolling with PayPal, people can actually become a member and pay all in one form instead of doing the weird thing where you have to like go and fill out your information and then go back to PayPal and stuff like that. So it'll be easy.
Streamline. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to point out? All right, so that's it for accomplishments. And next up is Dave. And I did some math on Dave and B. You guys are there 16 weekends, is that right? At Simpson? 14, which is over 45 hours. Pretty amazing. So Dave's going to give a report on volunteer activities.
And thank you for putting me ahead of Nancy when you have two educators in the group. There just isn't time for both. We're all known as being the blue coats that you can go out there and find on the bluff. Spotting scopes, and we have varying amounts of education. At the very least,
Could I get you to stand back here so you're on camera?
yes, you may. You realize, of course, this takes away from my soul.
I'm gonna give you some money
Yeah.
to make up for it.
Okay, all right. So in general, since you can go to sleep quicker, I'll give you the grand totals here. Volunteer hours, we had 1,157 hours. And that doesn't contain some of the hours like what the board puts in and some of our other activities. This is the one I like. Visitors, 11,404.
Is that just Simpson?
No, I'm reporting on all of C. Okay. Face Rock, we'll break it down into pieces. Now, they had 249 volunteer hours, and that's 53 hours over what they had last year. So it's going up. Now the sad news, 1,998 visitors. Not too shabby, but that's 426 fewer than last year. And since I don't work down there, I don't know what may have been a cause for that. Yeah, that's right. We had that construction out there. Now we'll go to the premier site on the in case you don't know, that's Simpson Reef. We had 640 volunteer hours, and we were up 29 hours. So we had new people coming on board, and some of the old timers. After 1 year, they're considered old timers. Started putting in a lot more work, and I'd like to thank Jeff. A little bit crippled this year. He would be in the neighborhood, which meant within 10 miles, and he would come and help set up. And then you turn around, there he was at closing time to help take down equipment. So very special. It's a beautiful drive down there. And he has this little sports car. Now, as far as visitors, some sad news here too. The good part was we had 8,052 visitors, but that was 294 fewer than the year before. But we had to cancel 6 different shifts because of fog. So that usually would have been another 600 at least. So we're still doing good things. In the way the donations came in, we had to be doing good things for them to donate as much as they did and buy as many of our C buttons as they did. So Simpson Reef is still hanging out there. Pup Watch had 232 volunteer hours. This is what I like about numbers. That's 192 hours over last year. But it has been pointed out, it's because Carol put a lot of time and effort into organizing it, doing training. So it made a big, big difference. As also was mentioned, we had a new program this year, Tide Pool Walks. We had 36 volunteer hours. And you have to remember, to be able to go be a volunteer, they had to go to training sessions in another part of the coast for basics and then more training down here. So I don't know how many hours these people actually put in to be able to do those official 36 hours. And then also we had coverage at Coquille Point for the Fish and Wildlife Service during the Circles in the Sand program. And there were 27 volunteer hours there. So you can see we're busy with a lot of different things, but I feel it's very important that part of the report include that we had some new equipment this year. B and I have had experience with people with vision problems. For example, this one lady was blind in one eye. She couldn't see through a spotting scope. And so she said for the heck of it, hey, let me look through your binoculars. And we had a set of binoculars on the tripod. She could see. Explain that one to me. We have a doctor. Explain that. And so fortunately this year through Banded 100 Strong, we were given a grant to buy a setup with a tripod, adapter, and binoculars. And for a lot of older people who have problem with vision, they were able to see. These little kids, okay, I'm going to look through this. They have a real time coordinating which eye is going to do what. But you give them a chance on the binoculars where at least one of the eyes might light up, and they were able to see things. And the key when you know that, you see the smile on their face, the light in the eye. Wow! So if you want to see what it looks like, I've got one set up in the back of the room, and really both sites got one set up, and I believe it made a real big difference. We were also given smartphone adapters. We get a lot of people out there with their smartphone trying to line that up. What'd you say? Oh, okay. Well, now we have an adapter, and Jeff, I think, is our expert on that, using that for Simpson Reef. But so they can put their cell phone into this adapter. Jeff shows them how to adjust it and everything, and everybody can get a picture, not just those that seem to have the right coordination. And the third thing that we got that was neat, there's people, they want to see better than they can with just their eyes. But we were also able to get some 8x42 binoculars for the 2 sites, 1 pair for each side. So real big thanks to Banded 100 Strong, because the equipment makes a big difference. B and I were out there when we started with basic little spotting scopes. We thought they were really neat. What we have now is super. So if you aren't a volunteer, take a look at the equipment we've got now, and our spotting scopes that we have are top notch also. And then come out during the summer and see what kind of fun we have. So that's our interpretive report.
Great. Okay, so now programs that are co-sponsored by C. So Eva, are you available?
Yes, I'm here. All right, just
You're
give me
up, girl.
a moment to pull up my slides.
So she'll describe her work developing the Oregon Coastal Management Plan and specifically the Coquille Point Marine Garden Management
All right, can you all see my slides all right?
Plan. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for having me. My name's Eva Krukowski. I'm the Rocky Habitat Projects Coordinator at the Department of Land Conservation and Development. And so I'm here to talk about some of our partnership with the Shoreline Education for Awareness program, and just really, highlight how this important work is connected to a larger effort across the state. All right. All right, and then just confirming the next slide advanced, right? Okay, great. So the Oregon Coastal Management Program is a program that is housed within the Department of Land Conservation and Development. We are a state agency that focuses on supporting local governments with implementing the land use planning system in the state. But we also do a lot of work in coastal management and coastal safety, resilience, and then also conservation programs on the coast. So we come out of this federally funded program called the the Coastal Zone Management Act. And so we're also supported by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And so I mentioned the statewide land use planning goals. There are 19 planning goals that are stretched from everything from like community engagement in planning all the way to goal 19, which is protecting ocean resources. So this work falls under planning goal 19, if you're interested in learning more. And within planning goal 19, there's this document called the Territorial Sea Plan, which is basically an overall framework that supports planning in the ocean. The territorial sea is considered like state waters, which is within the first 3 miles of the Pacific Ocean off the coast. So places like Coquille Point and Simpson Reef, fall within those 3 miles, and so the state has a particular interest in the way that they are managed. Right. So this map here on the left is showing the boundary of Coquille Point Marine Garden. And I just wanted to give a little background on what the designation process looked like for this site. So starting in 2020, there was a community proposal process to request that Coquille Point became designated as a state protected area. And so this online tool called Oregon Sea Sketch, which is like an online mapping website, allowed community members to actually draw the boundary on the map themselves. And this tool is pretty cool because when you draw the boundary around someplace on the coast, it'll then generate a report that shares a bunch of information about all of the data we have available on that site. So the report for Coquille Point, shows the long list of species and biodiversity that exists in that area. And the proposal was it was so successful that this effort was the first site that was approved and designated. And so after this like grassroots effort to get the site proposed, they gave a presentation to the Ocean Policy Advisory Council, which recommended that Coquille Point become designated as a marine garden. And then that went to the Land Conservation and Development Commission, which is the commission that oversees our department, and approved the site to be designated. And then there was kind of like a rulemaking process. There were some state agencies like the Department of State Lands, the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department that then adopted rules to basically implement this new designation. And then I came on board after the proposal happened to sort of help community organizations build capacity in order to implement the new rules, and also to help coordinate with other state agencies that are involved in doing this work. And I wanted to give a shout out and appreciation to Bev Min and William Steinberg, who are the original authors on the proposal in 2020. And it was a huge effort and a huge amount of work to get that through. And so here's a map of the new designation, shows how Middle Coquille Rock, North Coquille Rock, and Elephant Rock fall within the boundary. And I'm sure many of you know that U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has, manages the park at the headlands at the top of Coquille Point, and then U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service also manages the offshore rocks and islands there, shown in the boundary. And so the site is really important because the new marine garden boundary really ties together the federal jurisdiction at the headlands all the way through to the offshore rocks. And so it really just ties all of this together into one large protected area, which is just really special and really, lends itself to the kind of work that C does. And then just for you all, for your information, the state designation, the marine garden, has some added protections. So now the collection or harvest of shellfish and marine plants is now prohibited under this new protection. And so I can share where to learn more information about that. There's one very kind of funny exception to the rule, which is that if you are a recreational fisherman or fisher person, and you would like to fish within the marine garden, you're allowed to harvest one mussel in order to be bait for fishing within the marine garden. So just a funny little quirk thing to know. So now Coquille Point is a part, one of 9 marine gardens within Oregon. This is a map that shows all of the designated rocky habitat areas. And so it's really a part of a larger network of marine gardens. We've worked with some really, really wonderful partners on this work. The 5 federally recognized coastal tribes in Oregon, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Oregon State Police, the Department of State Lands, and then we've been meeting monthly with a group of rocky habitat partners. And Nancy Mesner has been participating in this group, and it's been really wonderful to work with her. And before Nancy, Mary Garrett was meeting with us as well. So we really have a large list of dedicated conservationists on the coast, up and down the coast. And so you really are in good company with people who are just really passionate about protecting these places. We held some community workshops to develop a management plan for Coquille Point. And so this is a photo from our workshop last year in Bandon. And some of the themes that come up in these conversations when we're talking about how to protect rocky habitats are things like information sharing. Where do you find out information online about how to safely visit Coquille Point? And I think the new website that they just shared earlier is a great example of, like one of the best places you could find information about visiting a tide pool on the South Coast. There's also goals around interpretation and education. Tide pools are one of the best places to learn about the ocean. And oftentimes it's like the first place on the coast that someone visits. So it's a really unique opportunity to inspire new marine stewards. Then there's also monitoring and community science. We're working on new ways that people who are visiting the tide pools could take a picture on this app called iNaturalist, and then upload that image online. And then that data point, if you observed maybe harbor seal pup, or you observed a sunflower sea star, which everyone's on the lookout for these days, then that data point, your observation, will be a part of this like statewide database. So where we can keep track of the biodiversity on their coast. And then finally, questions of and goals around enforcement and compliance. Oftentimes see volunteers on the beach who are doing interpretation work. You're sometimes the first people to witness either a dangerous situation on the beach or maybe a wildlife law violation. And so there's, we want to make sure there's guidance for supporting volunteers who might witness some kinds of emergencies or violations on the coast. So I just want to breeze through some of this. We are developing a management plan for Coquille Point that talks about goals for those different categories that I mentioned before. And we want to make sure that this document is useful to Shoreline Education for Awareness, and so be able to be updated over time. I mentioned some of this already, but a marine garden is one of the 3 types of rocky habitat designations. The overall goal of a marine garden is to protect the ecological integrity of the ecosystem, while also promoting things like public outreach and education. And this is the list of all of the other marine gardens on the coast. And we're hoping to kind of help create a network of the different marine gardens. So I mentioned Coquille Point was originally proposed in 2020. It was recommended to be designated in 2021, and then the new rules went into effect in the beginning of last year. This is the management plan that is out for public comment right now, and it's available online on the Oregon Ocean Information website. And we're still continuing to make improvements and updates to the plan. If you're curious, please visit the website that I'll share the link with on the last slide. And we're accepting public comment on this plan through the end of the day on Monday this week. But if you have more ideas or you want to keep in conversation with our department about it, I encourage you to do so. But my main point I wanted to get across to you all today is that all of the kinds of programming that Shoreline Education for Awareness does is just hugely instrumental in connecting to the state goals that we have for managing rocky habitats. And so the example I have on the screen here is an example of a non-regulatory management strategy that we have for all marine gardens. And so you can see that, doing things like increasing visual access to marine gardens and, expanding educational programs, they're all really supporting the overall goal we have for these places. So I'll link to some of these websites here, but this is where you can find more information from state websites. In the plan, I have included a contact list. So I mentioned some of the compliance concerns and sort of, some of if you witness something on the beach, where do you go to, who do you contact? So I want to make sure that is accessible for everyone. And then if you'd like to share feedback on the plan, please go to oreganocean.info/rocky habitats, and you can read more about it there. And then you can email me directly, or you can email written comments to tsp.comments@dlcd.oregon.gov. And I'll share all of this out with Mickey later so that you all can follow up if you would like. The last bit is that we have a celebration coming up on November 13th at the Hatfield Marine Science Center. So if you'd like to meet some of the partners who are involved in this work, I encourage you to come. It'll probably be in the afternoon, probably around 2 p.m. at the Gwynn Library at Hatfield Marine Science Center. All right, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Eva. That was great. Does anyone have questions while we have her here?
So has funding for NOAA had any impact on what you guys are able to do?
That's a great question. Yeah, thank you. So far, our program has not been impacted by the funding cuts to NOAA. We're monitoring it very closely, but so far we have been okay. We're kind of in this. We're connected to NOAA, but we're in this other program called Coastal States, supported by the Coastal States Organization. And so far, it seems like there's been pretty consistent bipartisan support for the coastal management programs in the country, which has been a huge, huge relief.
Other questions for Emma? Okay, well, we'll get those links.
Yeah, thank you so much. And please don't hesitate to give me a call if you have any questions or want to learn more. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. So Carol, are you available to talk about like the Sea Star Nurdle? Patrol? Yep.
Yeah, I don't do so well talking indoors. I'm better than I can say anyway. There's a few things that C participates in that are actually monitored or organized by other organizations, but we participate in them. One is Nurdle Patrol, and for those of you that don't know, these are nurdles. Those are actually the nurdles that our group has collected in the last 2 years. So there's not bucket loads of them. There's just one small little packet. But when you see the size of them, you'll see that we usually collect at least 100 to 200 probably a month. And what I normally do, there's a group out of the University of Texas that started noticing these little plastic pellets that were washing up on the beaches along the Mississippi River. And they realized that these are pellets that are used to make plastic products. And they were falling off container ships and opening up and then washing up on the shores. So they are a problem that is affecting the shoreline. Fish eat them, crabs eat them, and they eventually come back and we eat those animals, so they can affect us as well. So the fellows from the University of Texas started tracking these, and they set up a website at nurdlepatrol.org where you can go out for 10 minutes, collect as many as you can in 10 minutes, and then post your results. And then they're starting to track that information to keep it in so that hopefully somewhere along the line they can use this information to hold companies that are responsible accountable for these and to do cleanup as well. One of the fun things about Nurdle Patrol is at sea, once a month I'll send out an email to sea membership and say, hey, next Friday at 9 o'clock, we're going to do Nurdle Patrol. If you've got 10 minutes, come out and help us out. And we usually have a group of maybe 4 to 5 people that do that. The one nice thing about Nurdle Patrol as well, I know in the past year I've come across a few volunteers that can't always come at the times that are designated. They have other things that interfere with that timing. So one of the nice things about Nurdle Patrol is if you go out and walk on the beach and you want to collect your own nurdles, you can do that. You can count them and you can go to the website and report them. And if you look at the website, it's really kind of cool. They have a map of the world and they show all the numbers that are reported. A lot of times they're, school groups that do that, but it can just be one person. So if you're interested in doing that, you want to participate and volunteer, but you don't always have time to come when the group of C is doing it, you can do it yourself and then report the results on nurdlepatrol.org. Another thing that we participate in is Coast Watch, which is a program that's sponsored by the Oregon Shores Conservation Coalition. And what they've done is they've taken the entire coast of Oregon and divided it into miles. And I think there's 360 some odd miles along the Oregon coast. And then you can adopt a mile. And then once a quarter, you go out and you walk that mile, you take pictures, you answer questions about what you see, animals you see, strandings, changes to the coastline, things that are washing up on the beach, that sort of thing. And then you report this on their website. And we do it for C. I have been doing the work on this for the last year or so. And I go out, actually, I go out once a month just because I'm out there anyway. So I just do a report while I'm there. But I take pictures and I just report on what I see. We had a situation last month when I did it that I noticed there was an excavator up on the bluff by Coquille Point. So I called Alex Cook at the Bandon Marsh and said, you know, something's going on up there with the big excavator. Is that okay? And she said, yeah, they got permission from me. It's the city and they are replacing a broken something, culvert or something. But it was just one of those things that you could just check and make sure that everybody knew what was going on with. C has mile 101, which is between the 8th Street stairs and Face Rock. And so that's the one I report on. But there's a lot of other miles that are close by Coos Bay area and Bandon area. And any one of you that would like to participate would be more than welcome to adopt that mile and do that walk. So that's another volunteer program that you can do on your own if you want to. And you don't have time to do more organized volunteer events. The last one that C participates in, C was involved quite a bit with this when it was first started. But now the Whale Watch program is monitored by Oregon State Parks. And if you're interested in participating in Whale Watch, there's 15 locations along the Oregon coast. Once you register with state parks and are vetted, then you can sign up at any of the 15 locations along the coast for the Whale Watch periods. We have a week in winter. This year it's between December 27th and December 31st. And then we have 10 days in spring between March 21st and March 29th. And you can sign up at any of those locations. The one nice thing about it, a lot of people travel in their RVs and they'll go up the coast and volunteer each day at a different site. And Oregon State Parks will compensate them for their fees for their, I don't know what they call it, when you park your RV someplace in a campsite, I guess campsite, for doing that. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to. The closest locations to us here is at Shore Acres and also at Face Rock and Bandon. Right now, we are in the middle of the vetting program for the year. You have to sign up now, and then you're eligible to volunteer the last week of December or the 10 days in March, but you have to sign up now. So if you're interested, one of the things that I have to pass around is a little piece of paper.
You just did that with the Whale Watch. Here.
Well,
Yeah,
this has all the
how's
three
it?
things I'm talking about.
Oh, all three.
Okay,
Sorry, I thought it was a Whale Watch. That's just the Whale
No,
Watch.
that's just Whale Watch. This one that I made up is has the Adopt a Mile. If you're interested in adopting a mile, the website on here, this little piece of paper is on there. You can go online and sign up to adopt a mile. If you want to do your own Nurdle Patrol, as opposed or in addition to the one that C does, you can report your results to the Nurdle Patrol website here. And then this is the Whale Watch website to go on right now. Do it before the first part of November. I can't remember when they cut it off, but within the net, they started it the first part of October. What month are we in? October.
This is the end of October.
Okay, we're the end of October. So they've been doing it for about a month now. So if you're interested in signing up for Whale Watch, get signed up right away.
Can I have that?
Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions?
It's the first time I've heard of the Nurdle. And I'm thinking, you know, is there a trick to finding and counting them? Is there any way of scooping them up in a way? Or are they literally just one?
No. It's Wednesday and Tuesday. It's kind of tricky because a lot of the people that do this also take a bag for trash as well. because you usually find them among small microplastics that wash up as well. But the things that make nurdles stand out differently than microplastics is that they're all about the same size and they're symmetrical. Sometimes they're a triangle, sometimes they're a little square, but they're always pretty much symmetrical as opposed to something that looks just like broken.
Okay.
But yeah, the best thing is if you're not sure, pick it up anyway.
Thank you.
I have a nerdle question.
Yes.
I could look it up on the website. What is their end game? In other words, how are they using this data? Should I look up the website?
Well, they're just maintaining a database of what's being found so that they can look and see, oh my gosh, if all of a sudden millions started appearing in Bandon, Oregon, somebody would take notice.
Maybe they were using it for lobbying or something like that.
And
you know?
that's possibly
Yeah.
something to be used too, but it's just, from our standpoint, it's just providing information for that database. We're not really involved in how they use it, so, but I can imagine that it could be used for a number of different things, especially since it's supported by a university. Any other questions?
How far is or how often do we do the mile walk? I think I missed that.
I do it monthly
Okay.
because I'm out there anyway.
But it doesn't matter.
But well, the Conservation Coalition specifies that you should walk your mile at least quarterly.
Okay.
So at least once every 3 months.
Oh,
I just
cool.
started doing it monthly because I was out there anyway, and
Yeah.
I was trying to remind myself what I was looking for, and I thought the more often I do it, the easier it's going to be for me.
I'm out there all the time, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Training.
And a lot of people, there's a lot of people that walk the beach all the time.
Yeah,
so-
yeah. So.
And there's a forum there.
Yeah, there's a report.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of fun. I kind of shortened the form, but the form they have is online and it's like pages and pages. And if I take that on the beach, it blows all over the place. So I kind of shortened it to little questions that I can put all on one piece of paper. And then I put it on a clipboard. And then as I'm walking, I'm writing things down and taking pictures. And a lot of people ask me what I'm doing. And so it gives you another opportunity to kind of talk to people about
Yeah.
what's going on the coast. And sometimes they'll say, hey, I saw this over here. Can you tell me about that? So you get all kinds of information. It just sort of opens the door.
Carol,
Mhm.
I don't know if you can answer this question or if somebody else knows. The new regulations that have gone in from the state to charge for people parking at Base Rock.
Mhm.
How do you guys think that might affect your programs?
That's a really good question because we have no idea. It will have an effect, I'm sure. But at least, and Dave can probably add to this because of what he's seen up at Shore Acres. But at least at Face Rock here, they put up the sign. They say pay here. There's a QR code. People can go up and pay it. But I don't see people walking around writing down information. And the other thing is if you pay, you don't have anything. There's no piece of paper you get to put on your windshield to show that you paid. So I think it might sort of be an honor system.
I was gonna mention, I heard that the library is going to have a checkout
They
for
do.
people who can't afford the fee.
They do. I think they bought a 2-year pass, but several of them, you can check out and use for that.
You can buy a year or 2 years with this payment for your building there.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people already had that. I know I had one because I used it to go up to Shore Acres and Hasita Head. Those were 2 places that they were before. But, I'm not sure how it's going to affect at Face Rock when we set up our scopes and people come by and stop and want it. I'm not sure how they're going to go and pay for parking or see that they pay for parking. I'm not sure.
And come back next year and we'll tell you.
We talked about it at the board meeting,
Did
and
you-
we're going to try to get a slot for our volunteers. From
Oh.
the state as just a,
Right. Yeah, because the volunteers would definitely need something, but will it affect the people that are stopping? Or are they gonna say, hey, I don't wanna stop here, if I have to pay, I'm gonna go down to Coquille Point? That's what I worry about, because I'm the trail steward at Coquille Point. So I did deal with parking down there.
So the shuttle bus from the library to Face Rock, maybe if they pay to be able to take people back and forth, then folks wouldn't have to have.
They're just gonna drop people off. They just drop people off.
Yeah.
Leave them there.
So will those people have to have a pass to actually walk?
No,
Yeah.
you only have to have a pass if you want to park.
Let's see.
But the shuttle, doesn't that just run for circles
just
in the
for
sand?
circles,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Oh,
I think that's just days for circles. And they're the ones that sponsor
there's a
that.
possibility of contacting an organization that was shuttle and hiring them like.
It's one of the hotels, isn't it?
Best
Yeah,
Western.
it's Best Western runs that shuttle. And so I do have notes about we should contact them and see if they would do that for us too. But
Well, and
we'll
a lot
see.
of times people that stop and come for circles, once they see we're watching puffins, they come over, and so they didn't really come out to see stuff, but they're ready to have the accident.
Thank you.
Mary, do you want to say a few things about salt? Sure. If you can do it loudly. From the side.
So SOLVE is an organization that we collaborate with yearly, and usually it's around the Earth Day in April, but we've also done it in the fall. I think they do a couple of different collections, and they're located in Portland. So we collaborate with them here as far as setting up. They send us the bags, they send us the information. They have the sign-in sheets available. We encourage people to sign up online. And basically it's a waiver. And if you have somebody underage, you're agreeing to watch to make sure that child is safe. And it's a 2-hour, I think it's just 2 hours. We go to the city park. We take one of the little enclosed areas. We set up with signage and the bags, and what else do we have? Grabbers. And advertise it in the community and have people come out and just do the beach cleanup. So they go out for 2 hours, they can go on the beach, any of the beaches. There's a huge catchment area down in Port Orford, not Port Orford, Cape Blanco. So we have a group that goes down religiously every year with a truck, and they just load up, all the nasty things like styrofoam, whatever the big pieces of plastic. And what I've experienced in the last couple of years is usually it's the first week when we've had gorgeous weather, and a lot of people are out playing ball, walking, or they're riding bikes or doing something else. So it's not been hugely attended, but I think the Cape Blanco is really the one that delivers a lot of the garbage that's being used, because we repurpose it with Wash the Shore. We collect the garbage, we stay in the park at the kiosk until Wash the Shore shows up, and they pick up all the garbage and then repurpose it into our park. So there's not much to it. It's a nice, environmental exercise to get down on the beach. Some people have gone down to the river and picked up refrigerators. Things that have to go to the dump, which they are responsible for prior. But Wash the Shore really wants the styrofoams and the plastic. Yeah, I don't really, there's not a whole lot to it. It's pretty simple.
When is it here?
It's usually Earth Day, so April, I think that changed. 21st, 22nd.
It's always the 22nd.
Yeah, and then the puffin party's right around the same time. It's a busy time of year. I think we've done it in the fall, way back when. But again, there's not a whole lot of garbage on these beaches. They've got to go elsewhere. Trying to create Devil's Kitchen, the river, Cape Blanco, are really the catchment. So, yeah, it's it's a good mission for C, especially being involved with that collaborative. So, any questions? I know it's complicated.
I did it.
Find Your Wild used to be Walk for the Wild. It's a national event to support our national wildlife refuges, and it was changed to Find Your Wild because not every refuge can host a walk. So we had ours in early September, which was a good thing because if it was in October, shut down, that would have been a problem.
Oh, yeah.
So we raised over $2,000. 25 people attended, a little bit less than last year, but it was still a success. We collaborated with South SLU to get our tide pool walks up and running, and Sandy Woodside is going to talk about that under the new volunteer component. So that's it for our co-sponsored programs. Carol, you want to come back for the pup watch, please?
I was recently down in Northern California on a redwoods trip. I've never been down to the redwoods before, so I was down there the second week of October. And lo and behold, when I was in the gift shop for Prairie Creek Redwood State Park, I found this looks exactly like the seal pups we see. So this is our new mascot. His name is Tigger. That was a nice surprise. Why I would find that 25 miles inland at a gift shop, I have no idea. Anyway, Seal Pup Watch has expanded. Basically what it is about 3 years ago, Mary Garrett called me one morning and said, somebody's harassing a pup down on the beach, and I just got a report from somebody. Can you go down there, please, and see what's going on? And I said, okay. So I called my friend Diane Bilderback, and I said, what do I do? So she jumped in her car, she came down, and we kind of figured it out. We basically have perfected a little bit more now, but basically what we do is we set up signs and flags at Coquille Point in the area around the rocks at low tide, where the harbor seals come in and have their pups. It usually starts somewhere around the last week of April and runs till about the middle of June, about 6 weeks. But for those 6 weeks, it's pretty intense. We set up a schedule online, and last year we had 2 training classes that we sort of opened to the public by accident, and then finally said, well, maybe we don't want to do that because there was some issue with insurance and fee membership and stuff. But this year we're going to try to open the training up to the public. One of the things that we've really found is, at least for this year, a lot of times I was the only one down there on the beach, or me and one other person. So it makes it a little bit harder to juggle things when you're setting up flags and putting up signs and then talking to people and trying to get that guy that's climbing up on a rock and all things going on at once. But we've had at least 3 or 4 people on every shift this last year. We had 24 volunteers, which came a long way in 3 years. So what we're hoping to do this coming year is expand that a little bit, and then be able to talk to more people that are out there on the beach every day walking their dogs. You know, we see the same people every day that are walking. They walk for exercise, they walk for their dogs, whatever reasons. But a lot of times they want to know more because they would like to participate as well, because they are obviously out there at times maybe that we're not, or that we don't need to be because it's not low tide and the pups aren't really in danger at all from contact with dogs or people, but they have questions. And so a lot of the things that we were really able to do this year is answer those questions for the people, find out what's normal for these seals, what's normal for the pups. What does it mean when you see this? Who should we call if we see this? Those sorts of things. And with all the volunteers that we had this year, we thought, that was really something that has helped us expand and get more people involved, even people just that walk the beach every day, so that they feel more comfortable saying, hi, did you know that, there's a big seal pup here? Would you mind putting your dog on the leash? Oh, sure, I had no idea. But just kind of telling people or giving them a way of passing that information along without sounding like they're being a police officer and it'll put you under arrest. And so this year we're going to open it up to the public, the training, to kind of give those ideas. I know I talked to a lady last year. She said, I would love to volunteer, but I have health issues that I can't be involved in this kind of thing. But a lot of times I'll go out there and sit and watch the pups on my own. So, people like that want to participate, but they just really don't have time or can't be in a group situation for some reason, they can still participate. And then our 6 of our Pup Watch volunteers signed up for the Marine Mammal Stranding Network this year. So that was kind of an added bonus. And that's a year-round thing. We had recently a California sea lion on the beach at Face Rock that looked like it had leptospirosis. It was showing signs of leptospirosis. So we were able to put up signs, and I didn't know this, but they can evidently recover from that. They just need time to rest. And if they are on a beach where we put up signs and they're protected, where they're not being harassed, they sometimes can survive. And we haven't seen it for a while. So, and we haven't seen a carcass. So we're hoping that maybe it got better.
Didn't Diane post a carcass? Like, did she think it was that one?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The one that I saw that she posted was older than that.
Okay.
So it's still, I'm not sure. I have to check that with her. But I haven't seen anything on the website or the WhatsApp. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll hear from new wildlife, starting with Pam Wood, who did Pup Watch, as well as Simpson Reed. Did you know you were going to talk?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'm Pam Wooden. So this is my first year in sea, and I did Pup Watch and went to Simpson's Reef to see the sea lions. I'm from Texas, West Texas. So before moving to Bandon, I was really unaware of marine mammals other than the passing, aren't those cute kind of thought. So once I started going down to the beach and seeing them, I started trying to find out more about them and their behavior, and I got some books on marine mammal behavior. And I'm just enthralled, totally enthralled. The fact that mammals can live in the ocean overwhelmed me. It isn't possible, but they do it. And their behaviors are so mystifying. They can stay out of the ocean for months at a time. There's no fresh water. They spend 90% of their time underwater for months. There's no oxygen. There's no heat. There's no light. They'll dive 1,000 feet routinely, and they don't get the bends. How can they change the buoyancy to get down there and get up? How can they deal with the acidosis? So I went from getting books on behavior to getting books on physiology, and there is not a plethora of information available. But I'm trying to acquire some textbooks on physiology and find out more about how they adapt to this completely foreign environment where mammals were really not designed to live, but they have evolved to survive and thrive there. So I've thoroughly enjoyed learning about them and talking to the visitors at Pup Watch and at Simpsons Reef and trying to impart to each visitor like some little fact that will make them take an interest in marine mammals or marine life or the ocean in general. And I'm hoping that that will make them feel a connection and be somewhat bonded and be supportive of preserving the ocean environment, supporting marine mammal programs, being a little respectful in their treatment of that environment. And I've just received so much joy from talking to these people, especially their kids, about marine mammals and how they live and how they have evolved to survive in a hostile environment. So I can't wait for next year.
And being shy, she has a very advanced degree in animal sciences.
Well, I'm a retired veterinarian. And I was a biochemist. I did medical research for years before I went to vet school. So I'm quite interested in how they go about studying these animals. We can't join them in their environment. And so there's very little description of where some of this information actually comes from. And the few descriptions I have seen about how the studies are designed make you greatly question the veracity of the results because they're incredibly hard to study. So I'm impressed that we know anything about them at all.
Thank you for your time and your joining us and your curiosity. That's cool perspective. Okay, so tide pool walk stories, Sandy Woodford.
Okay. So there's a third educator in the room.
Hey, we're over time, right?
And Robin McCreary was supposed to be here today to make the tide pool specific presentation. But since that's originally why I signed up, Lori, where'd Lori go? Oh, there she is. Lori recruited me into C in 2025 last spring. A couple of days ago, she wrote me an email saying you have 5 minutes to talk. Because she knows that I've been trained to talk for an hour and a half at a time. And then I got this second gig, so I figure I got 10 minutes to talk. So.
Yay.
All right. So when Lori first approached me to volunteer, she had been volunteering for me, canvassing during elections. And we developed a friendship. And then she said, well, would you be interested in coming over to see? And I said, well, I'll do you a favor. Since you did me a solid, I'll do you a solid too. And I'll come and volunteer for C because I love the outdoors. And it gives me an opportunity to know more about my home now, which is at the ocean instead of the mountains. I originally signed up. Lori said, we're going to have a new program this summer called Tide Pool Tours. And I said, oh, good, I get to be a tide pool tour guide. So that sounded really good to me. So that's why I joined C in the first place. But those tours didn't start until June. There were only 3 of them. And so I had some time to kill, and this issue of Pup Watch came up. And not knowing quite what that entailed, I said, okay, let me give that a try. And so as I attended Carol's training, I thought, well, I really enjoy this. I'm out there, in a sense, speaking for creatures that cannot speak for themselves and helping people understand the importance of those creatures and protecting them, particularly during the birthing season, when our crop of babies come in. And we have a unique environment here because that little cove there is just perfect for these harbor seals to be protected because the larger predators can't come in. So the pups can stay there and play while moms are out doing their thing. And just standing there, meeting the public, most people were really, really receptive. There were very few people who barked at us, so it wasn't a terrible experience, like the policing thing, because I've been known to run through the national park. So, so Carol told me I couldn't constrain myself, constrain myself from talking. But my first experience was with a pup that was stranded. And I'd never done anything like that before. We had, I think it was 19 births. We had, I think, 3 strandings. I thought we had 3 and 2 died.
Well, 2 died.
Yeah. So there were 3 stranded, 2 of them passed away. And I was working with the second one who passed away. So that was a 3-day ordeal, right? Because it was this little pup had such a will to live and was in such bad shape. And so I found it to be very moving to be protecting this little guy in his last hours to die with dignity. Because I have a strong belief in the efficacy of animals and that they also have feelings and spirits. So it was an amazing experience, but he passed away. But in that process, right, it was my opportunity to experience one of the things I would say about volunteering with C is that it is truly a volunteer organization. And it's not a pressured volunteer. Okay, you're a volunteer, you must do this. It's a volunteer program. Here's where we need volunteers. If you can do it, great. If you can't, don't. Right, and you just come and go as your schedule allows you to. So that experience, and then we got into the tide pool tours. So there were 3. This was a brand new program. Nobody really quite knew what was going to happen. So the tide pool tours were in conjunction with the South Slough Community Class Program, I think is what it's called. They did all the recruiting, and then people came down here, and Robin and Carol led, and those of us who were interested in that program went along to learn with the hopes of being tide pool tour guides this coming season. And that was an amazing experience. The feedback that the board got evidently was that this was a really exciting program. We had a lot of kids that came in, and our tide pools are a little bit different than the tide pools that you see at other rocky shores. So we have kind of a unique environment here to learn about and participate in. So kind of dovetailing into what's happening for 2026, as was announced, there are going to be 4 tours this year. Again, in collaboration with South, whoever those folks are, the Slough people. In collaboration with them, but again, kind of managed by us in the actual tours. Then there's also the idea that Bandon, we're going to run specific Bandon tours. So South Slough takes in a lot of people, but we're also going to be advertising tours here in our own town to educate our people about this wonderful environment that we have here and how do we help to preserve it. And then the subset of that is looking for people who are interested in developing programs for our kids. So probably K through 12, more likely K through 6. But a brand new program, how do we reach out to the school system and maybe bring these kids out and teach them as well? So we get them young, raised up here, they're protecting our environment. So I think if you're going to volunteer, there's 2 things you need to understand. I would divide the volunteer program into, okay, I still got 4 minutes. I would divide the volunteer program into what I call the Hallmark group and the National Geographic group. The Hallmark group is a lot of the, the things that are happening up on top of the bluffs where you're looking out at the animals, but you're not actually with them. Now, there are tough things that happen even when you're observing through a scope. You might see a predator bird come in, chase all the gulls away, and then start eating all the eggs. But again, there's kind of a, like watching it on TV effect. When you're down on the beach with birds that have broken wings, with pups who are stranded waiting for mom to come back, you have to kind of get yourself steeled. It's a wonderful experience, but there's also some tragedy there as well. There was one person, was one of the pups that survived, but the pup was under stress because mom wasn't around, and so it cried all day long. One of the volunteers said, I just had to go. I couldn't stand listening to it. It was just too heartbreaking, heartrending. So you kind of have to take a look at yourself and understand what you're looking for in your experiences, because sometimes the National Geographic side is a little bit rougher. We had a couple show up with this little guy that I was watching, and they were taking pictures, of him. And I said to them, "Do you have a story to go with that picture?" And they kind of looked at me and were like, "What?" And I said, "Well, the picture that you're taking, he looks cute, he looks fine, and you're going to take that home and give this happy story to your friends." I said, "But this little guy is dying." And I said, "So do you want the real story or do you want the Hallmark story?" And I said, "If you want the Hallmark story, turn around and look at all those seals that are on the rocks and all those babies that are living and jumping around and splashing and learning how to swim. This little guy has a particularly different story to tell, right? Because when moms leave and they go outside of that bay, they're likely to meet their predators, and some of them don't return. So there's always that possibility that that's going to happen. So decide what you want from your volunteer experience and go for it, because it's amazing, it's great. These new programs that are coming, I hope to see you on the beach as a tour guide this year. And so welcome, and I think it's now time for a break.
So basics, we are a nonprofit, the 501c3 tax exempt corporation that somebody said we've been around a long time, 35 years. No employed staff. We meet monthly. We have a lot of volunteers, which you've heard about. So we actually had a very good year financially last year because of donations and a couple of things I'll refer to. As of the end of September, so our fiscal year 10/1 through 9/30, up at the top you can see. So at the end of September, our account, $23,000, savings, $11,000. The intern program is a separate program, and I'll talk about that in a little detail. And as of the end of September, that's how much we had. We still have one intern working, Emma Thogmartin. We had 3 this year. She's still working. I think she's going to work through mid-November. So the total income, roughly, last year is $15,929. You can see the breakdown. A large amount of it came from donations, and we had good donations this year. We talked about the 4,500 from 100 Strong, and then we had a $1,500 donation from Joe and Francis. Is it Namas? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Namas, which was really great, stellar. And this helped purchase all the binoculars. We have 4 binoculars and the accessories, the RV rental for our interpreters at Simpson Reed. That's a very important item. And then the various supplies that the tide pool interpreters needed. Membership, contributes about 16%. We have what we call an indirect fee. So whatever the intern grant is, we take these days, we take the maximal indirect fee from that. So in the past, it was like 10%. Now it's up to 15%, and that's what we usually take. And this year it accounted, it was about $3,200, I think. And most of it, well, all of it goes to pay for the different insurances we have, which usually are between $3,000 and $3,500 a year. And then we have some merchandise sales. By the way, we have 5 hats left. If anybody wants a hat, pretty good prices are very, and they're kind of nice, and nobody has one yet. Nobody has one on.
How much are they going for?
$15. Can't get
Great
that
deal.
Yeah. Anyway, there's that. And then our expenses, you can see a good chunk goes to insurance, and then the different purchases we made this year to support what we do. The RV rental, 19%, and then other things, the routine things we pay for every month or quarterly, whatever the schedule is. But the room rental here and postal tax reports, etc. Then the intern program last year, we received $2,900. We had 3 interns. A couple of them were for 4 months, and one of them is still working, so she's going on 6 months. And then just a brief summary of what they do. They do a lot: bird surveys, monitor bird habitats, they give presentations, they help us with the internet, participate in Find Your Wild, Jackie talked about. We already have some, it was questionable about next year, but we already have some initial funding, $18,400. We hope to have 2, 3 interns next year too. Any questions about the finances? We have a bookkeeper who is helping me for at least 3 years, and she has other things that have come up and is not helping out with that right now. So at this point, I've asked Miriam Bookkeeping Services to help us out with the quick fix part. So that's it.
Big job. Thank you so much for all that you do, keeping us legal and insured and Oh, well, let's see. I'm Martha. I'm here to do the business portion. So we have 2 things. We're going to vote to change the bylaws. This hasn't been done in quite some time. And the purpose of the changes, so you can look at them. There is nothing substantive about the changes. These are all, as you'll see, things like, instead of the goals and objectives of CR, now it will be the goals of CR. So it's mostly getting the bylaws to reflect what we have been doing for many years and to clean up the language, update the language a little bit. For example, instead of calling you volunteers docents, you are wildlife interpreters, because that is what you're doing. So that's the change that you'll see. But as you go through, you'll find it's really cleaned up. And kudos to those that worked on this. So I'm going to give you a minute to get it and then just look it over. And then I will ask for a vote on that. First, I'll ask for a motion to change, to approve the changes. I'm going to take a second.
Wrap that?
And that's what we used to call
Wrap meetings at the board meeting.
general meeting. And for the record, the changing docents to wildlife interpreters has been passed. about 20 years ago.
Okay.
And it was a battle because the president didn't, he wanted to be a stuffed shirt. No,
Well, we're in.
They I had to look that one up when I joined the board.
I did an art museum, like in an art museum. Well, do I get a motion to accept these changes, to approve the changes to the bylaws?
I move that we accept these changes.
Thank you, Robin. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We'll take Betsy's. Okay. So the changes to the bylaws have been approved. Thank you.
Oh, we have to vote.
Oh.
Minor little,
That part.
hey, President Trump, what are you doing?
See, we can do it by a show of hands because a simple majority is following. Is there, so can I see a show of hands to approve the motion as it stands? Fantastic.
How many people are here?
Now first.
Good 18, 19, 20. But I'm gonna miss the table. I'm gonna move on. Can you get a count and see of how many of us are in the room?
Yes, I can do
Thanks. All right. The next order of business is the election for a 2-year term for treasurer. And Betsy Neely is willing to continue in that position. Are there any nominations from the floor? Is there anybody that really wants to do it?
Did I say that?
I hope you are. Somehow I had it written down. Tell me the truth. Betsy said she'll do it. But if there are no other nominations from the floor, then we may vote by hand for a unanimous decision. All in favor of Betsy Neely as treasurer, please raise your hand.
20.
20.
Oh, Sherry's opposing.
Are there?
I noticed that.
Well,
Only the board can vote.
I'm not staying.
I'll vote twice.
and the next and last order of business is the election for a 2-year term for secretary. And Nikki Franks is willing to continue in that position, which is very as well for the organization. Thank you, Nikki. Are there any nominations from the floor? Anyone else want to do it this time? Be thinking about that though, because we might not get to keep her forever. But since there are no other nominations, we can vote by hand for unanimous decision. All in favor of Nikki Franks as secretary, please raise your hand. And again, thank you, Nikki. You are happy to announce you as our secretary. So that concludes our annual meeting. And it has
Except
been
for one thing, if
wonderful.
anybody wanted to join the board.
Okay. You should, let's see, does anybody want to talk about that? There are positions for the board. Jackie mentioned that as we began this morning. And all the other possibilities for your contributions. So there is paperwork up here, I believe, that if you are willing to, yes, board applications. If you would like to take one of these, you can actually just sit at your table and fill it out right now if you're interested. Tuck it away in your mind if you want to do it later. I'm not sure if it's on the website or not, but you can get a hold of one of us. So those will be up here for you to handle today. Anything else like that? Anything else for the good of the order? All right, then I will adjourn the annual meeting.